In the late 60s, Donald Wilkes came up with this. It's called the rolamite, and we looked at it in video 2356, how we might go around making one. Now for this kind of motion, this backwards and forwards or oscillatory motion, the rolamite's absolutely brilliant. The problem is, there aren't a lot of uses for that kind of movement. I mean, that's a bit harsh here, because there are lots of uses, it's just not nearly as many uses if we can make it spin round and round. Rotary motion is used an awful lot more than oscillatory motion. And so, of course, Donald looked at this and was thinking about how can we make this rotate? And what he came up with was this. Now, this does still oscillate beautifully, but if you rotate it, it has an issue. One of the issues is band fatigue. If this band will fatigue after something like, say, 1,000,000 uses, in this kind of use, where you're using it for a switch or something like that, 1,000,000 uses will equate to years of use. In this, if you're using it for something like a motor that's turning at 1,000 or 2,000 RPM, you're talking about hours of use before the band actually breaks. And of course, that's a big issue. Now, this is still used. You find this used in things like curtain valves and trigger mechanisms. This, you don't find at all. It took about 27 years until an improvement came upon this, and that improvement was created by a Canadian chap called Eric Brinkman, and he filed a patent in 1995, and here it is. Because he said to himself, do we really need all that gubbins? I mean, if we look at this, we see that essentially we do need two channels. We need this outer channel, this inner channel, a whole load of rollers, and the band. So if you think about it, 4 essential components. What Brinkman said was, well, maybe we could get away with 2 essential components, just the bands and just the rollers, if we arrange them properly. And he created something he called his scroller wheel. Sometimes these names, the rolamite reminds me of Vegemite. It's definitely a 60s name. And the scroller wheel, it's got to be a 90s name, because if you put scroller wheel in, what you'll get is a whole load of mouse mats coming up. So scroller wheel was what he decided to call it. I'm not sure it's the best name, but the invention itself, absolutely beautiful, particularly if you look at the model that Brinkman created in order to demonstrate his device. So what I thought we'd do is have a look at if we can replicate that. And to do that, of course, what I did was turn to Tinkercad. Now there's nothing to it, it's just a roller and a rubber band. In this case, the red roller is the centre roller and it's slightly smaller than the yellow roller. You need to print 1 red roller, 4 yellow rollers, and then 8 of the TPU band. So the blue is printed in TPU. And when you print them out, this is what you get. We've got 4 of these larger outside rollers and this red inner roller, and the little indentations in it to help guide our bands, and there's our 8 TPU bands. Now, the inventor says that you have to have at least 3 outside rollers, preferably 4, but you can have very many more. And the number of bands that you put on, apparently, have got to be twice the number of rollers. So, because I've got 4 rollers, I've got 8 bands, and of course that makes this quite long. What I've got to do now is get these bands around this roller arrangement, which will look, there you go, like that. And I have to wind them so that the band goes around the red and then loops out, going all the way around the yellow. That might be a little challenging. Maybe some kind of jig would be a good idea if I was going to make more than one of these, but I'm now going to struggle to put these on in the right arrangement. And there it is put together. Now, it wasn't really the nightmare I thought it would be. It started getting stable around about band 5 or so. Well, if you look at this bottom strap, here is where the C shape bends around the central axle. As we go up one strap, then we move around 90 degrees, so we get the next C shape, it's right there. 90 degrees, 1 step up, next C shape, 90 degrees, 1 step up, next C shape, and so on. So that central roller is being pulled from 4 directions every step up that it goes, and that's part of what helps it to be stable. Now, I'm actually finding this still a little unstable. These rollers don't stay in parallel with 8 bands, but then the inventor did say that 8 bands was the minimum, and he also showed an outer sleeve on this. So that outer sleeve would certainly hold these things in parallel and stop that sliding around that they're doing. So maybe that's the way it has to be done when you're using the minimum number of bands. So I'm tempted to add another 4 or 8 bands to it to see what would happen. Because then you're getting a fairly chunky device. I mean, that's one of the advantages of normal ball bearings, is they're pretty slim for the kind of axle that they can actually cover. These ones are getting much more chunky the more stable you actually want it to be. So it's probably why we don't see these very much, because these flex joints, these roller joints with bands, of course, are really well known for being very low maintenance, being easy to manufacture, being cheap to manufacture, and needing no lubrication. They can also work in very adverse conditions because grit doesn't really bother them much. So underwater, in space, in rain and mud, they'll continue to work. A bearing, of course, if it gets grit in it, you're soon going to ruin it, and you do need to lubricate them. But that is the basic scroller roller. So working on that idea, what I did then was print this sleeve for it. It had a couple of end caps, so it was easier to turn. And indeed, if I now turn it, you can see that that skewing issue has actually gone. So it's really quite cool, apart from the fact it's relatively chunky. So I thought I would share it with you. Now, the inventor did say that if you used magnets instead of other metal, plastic, wood rollers, then you could reduce the number of bands and make it very much smaller. That's probably something to check out, because it would certainly be interesting and a lot of fun to try that. But I thought I would do this. Of course, I will put these files on Thingiverse should anybody want them. And there you go, the scroller roller. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.